if you would say the IFP was alone responsible for violence, who killed 12,000 IFP members? It takes two to tango.
They didn't kill themselves.
No, they could not have killed themselves. They were killed by ANC.
I can't give you my vote. And then when uyayithatha uyofaka kule multi-party thing of yours. What do you say to that vote?
No. It's very easy. A woman who was in a relationship with an IFP member, she was from the location to the hostel.
Okay.
And she fell pregnant. And one day when she was moving from the location to the hostel, they caught her, the ANC members, and they cutted her womb alive.
King David Studio Podcast.
Your story is interesting. Actually, Papa, I'm not introducing you properly. We don't do long introductions here, and I'll tell you why. Because we interview people who need no introduction.
Okay.
And we have the leader of a giant-sized political party, and we're very privileged to have you here. You drive out of the airport in King Shaka Airport in KZN. The first thing you see is either a billboard or a poster of yourself. And that's how great this is. The leader of the IFP. Thank you so much. I truly appreciate it. You have a municipality named that uses your surname.
Yeah, no, thank you very much, David. The area where I come from is called Hlabisa, which is named after the surname that I hold after the wars during the times of King Cetshwayo. Mbopha was one of the great soldiers, warriors, who performed outstandingly during the wars under King Cetshwayo.
Okay.
And he was a cousin to King Cetshwayo because King Pande was married to Hlabisa Songia.
Okay.
And then if you performed well in KwaZulu, it's either they give you cows as a way of gratitude or they give you land.
What is performing well in that context?
No, like for instance, you fought bravely, you led the war. Sometimes you were a commander of the army. If you are not a commander of the army, but you excelled in the battlefield. Some people are very strong, being not commanders, but just warriors. And they demonstrate a rare ability of fighting, encouraging others not to give up until they win. So now Mbopha was then, as a gratitude from his cousin, he gave him land, and the land became known as Hlabisa. That is where we reside. The municipality was initially Hlabisa municipality, but later in 2016, it changed the name to Big 5 Hlabisa, because that is where you find the Big 5 animals in Hlabisa.
And also, isn't it a combination of a few royal houses? Am I correct?
No, Hlabisa is just one house, royal household. Hlabisa by surname. But the district is also called Hlabisa Magisterial District, where you have Abakhwanazi, you have Abadleche, and then 2 Amakhosi from Hlabisa. And the reason why there are 2 Amakhosi from Hlabisa, Mbopha was not the eldest in the family. Now, when his cousin gave him land, he indicated that, but from the home family structure, I'm not the eldest. I do not come from the eldest house, so I can't become Inkosi. There is my younger brother from a senior house, Somfula. And kind enough for Somfula, when his brother gave him that you will have to be our Inkosi as per the decision by our cousin, King Cetshwayo, Somfula said, no, we rather cut the land. I will have a portion for you and take a portion for me.
For peace sake.
Yeah, for peace sake. And then both then became Makosi of our Hlabisa.
In my research, I do find that there's a bit of a mixture of a few families there.
Yeah.
And you let's fast forward your life quickly, and then you became mayor of that area.
Yes, I became a mayor of that area in 2012 up to 2019. After having been a councillor for a long time, I was one of the few councillors when I left in 2019 to the provincial legislature, because I became a councillor in 1995 during the transitional period from 1995 to 2019.
You know the politics very well.
In fact, all the laws, local government laws came to us, and we made contributions. And I really had known local government from A to Z.
That's amazing. Yeah. Do you know, your life story is interesting for me. And because you were led for so long as IFP by such a giant figure in South African politics, which could easily overshadow younger leaders like yourself. And now having to rise up and be a leader of a party with a legacy, following up on a legacy that's so huge, surely that must be a bit of a challenge. Describe taking over, wearing these big shoes. Zago Chief Mangosuthu Buthelezi, how did it feel for you to take over this giant position?
Yeah, let me say firstly, David, I didn't see it coming. That I will succeed Prince Mangosuthu Buthelezi, because it happened before he died.
That's true.
I have been in the IFP from 1978, which is 46 years now.
You were a young boy.
Yeah, I was young at 13 years age. Having spent such a long time in the IFP, together with many others, because the fortune with the IFP, there are people who joined in 1975 when the party was founded. They are still active and they are still serving in the NEC. And the Youth Brigade was founded in 1978, and we were the first group to become the Youth Brigade. And I still have many at my age with whom we became the first group of the Youth Brigade in 1978.
Yeah.
Over a period, I have seen many brothers and sisters who are elder than me, whom I was hoping when the time of succession comes, they will succeed the late Prince of Wapindangen.
Yeah.
Well, things happened the other way around, and Prince Mangosuthu Buthelezi was a very observant man. Because all I know about him, Prince Mangosuthu Buthelezi was a very observant man, and intelligent also. This has been proved by many people who have attributed to him the same.
Yes.
Because when you speak, the late Prince will listen to you the first 3 to 5 minutes. If you don't make sense, then he will start doing something else and no longer concentrate on you.
Wow.
But if
you would notice that.
Yeah, you will notice that.
Yeah.
Because the moment he realizes that the person doesn't make sense, he can start taking the newspaper, reading it, or get an exam pad to make some notes. Because he realized that time is being wasted.
Rather, I do something else.
Yeah. Now, he was a very observant man. As I said, I didn't see it coming, but when it came, I firstly wanted to run away.
Okay.
And decline, because sometimes people call you aside and say, hey, look, here is a proposal. It wasn't done so to me.
Okay.
And I must think probably His Excellency knew I might raise some questions and want to run away. It just came on spot while I was in the meeting. I firstly thought I should decline because, one, I'm young. There are people who are older than me. And I knew that this might mean a short lifespan in politics for me, looking at my age.
Why think it'll make a short lifespan?
No, you see, sometimes staying longer at the helm of a political party, it's something difficult if you are not a founder.
Okay.
If you are a founder, it's something difficult. It's different because you are the holder of the vision. But if you are a successor, you shouldn't stay too long, depending how people feel. When you are in your mid-50s, you know that, oh, well, my 10-year term will be mid-60s. If I'm still having energy, then I will have to step back and give other people leadership unless people feel the other way around.
Carry on, yeah.
I said, oh, no, even if I think I'm young, there are people who are older than me. If it is God's calling, let me accept it and I will see what happens. It did not become a difficult thing simply because over a period following Umntwana, working with him, I happened to learn how he deal with issues, how he deal with people. And over a period, because at that time, it was about 41 years being in the IFP when this idea was presented that your name is being nominated to succeed the prince. And it comforted me because Prince Buthelezi said, I want this succession to happen now when I will have an opportunity to support the new leader, to guide the new leader, to ensure when there is a problem, he can bounce back to me, and I'm in a position to monitor the transition. You know, in Africa, it is not an easy thing for a leader to relinquish power and give over the baton to somebody else. But Prince Buthelezi did it. And it is a hard thing to succeed a person who has led a party for 45 years.
Do you know something you raise about the African problem of handing over? Sometimes they would hand it over to family. So they keep it within. You are not necessarily a descendant of the Mangosuthu Buthelezi family.
No.
Yeah.
But Prince Buthelezi, as I said, he was observant. In 2017, he said, no matter how you can pursue me, that I should carry on, I'm not going to accept your persuasion. It's now, it has to be handed over to somebody else. Now, as I said, he was a very observant person. I'm sure he had taken a longer time observing how I contributed in the party, and that if he can hand over his legacy to this man, his legacy will live long. Well, of course, even myself, when I look back, in 2011, when the IFP had a split with the formation of the NFP, the IFP remained with 2 municipalities won with a clear majority from 35. In 2012, I presented a strategy while I was still the provincial secretary of KwaZulu-Natal of how to bounce back. And I led the strategy at Miet Mekar. And when we came back to present to the NEC, the first person after my presentation who raised his hand was Prince Mangosuthu Buthelezi. He said, I am supporting what Mr. Hlabisa has presented as a comeback of the IFP after the loss we had in 2011. Why? As I told you, he will listen the first part of the presentation. If you make sense, he will concentrate the whole presentation.
Yes.
And if you don't make sense, and if it's not something that's going to work, he will pick it in the first 3 to 5 minutes that this one is just a dream. It can't happen. So he became the first one who said, I support it. And then he moved that this presentation be adopted as a national program to revive the IFP. From then, that is where the IFP is today. So now, his observation and the reason why he could not give to family members is because he wanted to live beyond his lifetime. And he did not want to play around with it. He wanted to live in someone whom he had observed and trusted that he has an ability to make the IFP become a solution to the challenges of South Africa. And the IFP is actually going there. People must watch the space.
Very, very quick question following up to what you just said. Do you remember what you said in that presentation? That, in your opinion, was the turning point, or what sold your... And I don't imagine you had aspirations of leadership at the time, but what was it that you were selling at the time that was bought?
At that time, as I said, I was the secretary of the province.
Yeah.
I had all known that a secretary is an engine of an organization. If you have someone sharp being a secretary, he can take the organization to higher levels. But if your secretary is dead, it's like no matter how beautiful a car is, but if the engine is dead, it just can't make a move.
Exactly.
Now, the IFP has invested in my life. I was taken at one stage to the United States for weeks to go and learn campaign strategies, how to rebuild a party that has lost support. At one stage, I was in Germany. Another stage, I was in Netherlands. Several times in the United States of America. Now, it was time for me to plow back to the IFP the knowledge they have invested in me. Because I could also say God's grace also helped, because the strategy I came back with was that if we want to come back to the political space and become a factor, there are things that we must do in terms of mobilization, in terms of targeting, and in terms of stages. There should be short-term goals, long-term goals, and put in place a monitoring mechanism. Now, it was 2012. I said, we can't make a meaningful change in 2014, because if you want to win election, at least have 5 years to prepare. Now, if you have only 2 years, you can just make an indication that you are turning the corner, but you can't make a powerful impact. I think Prince Mangosuthu Buthelezi picked it from there, because it gave him a picture. And as someone who was intelligent, he could see what you are selling without needing you to repeat it. So I said, as it is 2012, our target short term should be 2014, but our long term is 2016 local government elections and 2019 provincial and national government elections. Yeah. Now, you know, in 2012, if someone starts to plan for 2016, 2019, a wise man realizes that this person is far ahead of us.
You gave yourself a long runway.
Yeah, in terms of timing. And because if you plan, you must firstly go to that period and come back and explain to other people how we can arrive to that period. That is why I say, well, additionally, God's grace, because on your own, you can't have it that while you're still young, but you are able to go to a period 10 years ahead and look at it, that how it will be, and come back and convince other people that, can you follow me to this
to the
period?
promised land.
Yeah, and with God's help, the IFP turned the corner in 2014. You know, when a party is on a downward trend, it becomes difficult to make a turn that you do not go down further. But it happened for the first time in 2014, and everybody realized that this is the impact. But this man told us that it can't be something great because we only have 2 years, but we will show that we are turning the corner. Then in 2016, we won 13 municipalities up from 2. And then when we started to plan for 2016, I came with the idea of a package that planned for 3 elections as one.
Okay.
Yeah, you plan for 2016, you plan for 2019, you plan for 2021. Because you won't have separate 5 years because local government elections come in between.
Yeah.
Then you know your 5-year plan has a short-term goal, the local government in 2.5 years, and then thereafter you will have only 2.5 years. You won't have another 5 years. So if you did not plan immediately after 2016, you will only wake up having only 2 years and you can't do it.
It's too late.
Yeah, it's too late. So now the performance of the IFP have been growing and then growing, and we are reaping the fruits now of the planning we had, but we are still sticking to that. As we are preparing elections, even now, we are preparing for 2024, 2026, and 2029.
Wow.
Yeah, all the times.
It's another...
Yeah.
You plan like a professional soccer team.
Yeah.
You plan for the long haul.
Yeah.
Take us back to a 13-year-old, Velenkosini, who was young.
Yeah.
You were this kid in the village. Take us back to that time. What was it about you in particular and the environment in which you grew up in that politicized you?
Well, let me say, first of all, there is a subject that was taught at school known as Ubuntu Botho.
Okay.
African humanism. That umuntu ngabanye abantu, a person is a person through other people. Ubuntu Botho subject was teaching more on humanity, but also enlightening us about the political conditions. Though I was still young, but I realized that in the schools we were going in, there were no other racial group except black people.
Okay.
Now, I used to attend camps that were arranged by the IFP, where Prince Mangosuthu Buthelezi was talking about the scenario in South Africa, because at that time, other political parties were banned and other leaders were in prison. Prince Buthelezi used to talk about these things. But I came to realize that if you happen to go to town, there are areas, shops, which you cannot get in, but other races are getting in.
Sure.
So now that is how I became conscious about the social divide in our communities, that it is not right, because the schools in which we were learning, they were not in a good state. You could see when something is not right. And I became aware that other races are going to better schools. And this is just solely on the basis of color, which is not good. And then I therefore got involved in politics through the awareness by Prince Mangosuthu Buthelezi. That is why I followed him the rest of my past 46 years when I joined the IFP in 1978.
How was your young mind taken by those in the family, your immediate family, as someone who follows politics? Because there was a time in the history of us as Black people where family members would not encourage us because the template was already there that you'll end up in prison and so forth and so forth. How did it go in your family?
Yeah, my father didn't like it because he used to caution me that, but you see, what you are getting involved with is not good. You rather concentrate on your studies.
Yeah.
And then I said, no, I will never sacrifice my studies. Eventually, he allowed me. And my mother too was initially concerned because they were politically aware of the implications. But as the time went on, I'm sure they came to a realization that, well, a calling is a calling. Because now nothing has happened. Let us allow him to follow what he's pursuing. With God's help, probably he is going somewhere.
Yeah.
But in any way, my other name that is not in the ID book is Holy Sizwe. It's my father who gave that name. Holy Sizwe, the leader of the nation.
Ah, okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Now, I don't know what he had in mind when he gave that name. Probably it could have also been what made him at the end of the day. But hey, look, I gave the name to this person as Holy Sizwe. And if he gets involved into politics, which is about leading the nation, let me not stand on the way I prophesize, because when parents give you a name, they proclaim what they want you to be.
Yes.
So now, that is the name. Unfortunately, it is not in my ID book.
You know you can include it if you want.
Yeah, well, is that people have known me as VF.
Yes.
Adding another name in my, yeah.
Will complicate things.
The good thing is that I prefer to kept it as my knowledge, that this is what my father wanted me to be.
Yeah.
And there it is.
Are you raised in a family of many siblings?
Yes. My father, or my family, is a polygamous family.
Okay.
From my grandfather, he was a polygamous man, and my father too. There were two mothers,
okay,
who were married to my father, and I'm the eldest to my mother. Eventually, I became a responsible person to all of them, even including my other siblings from my other mother. My mother had 10 kids in total.
Is your mom the first wife?
No,
Okay.
He's the second wife.
Okay.
My other mother had 4 kids.
Okay.
Unfortunately, they have all died.
So
from
sad.
my other mother. And then from my mother, we are remaining 4 out of 10. But we're still a big family because they left kids. And
many.
I became I became a father of many kids.
Wow.
I've enjoyed it.
And the reason I ask of the first wife and the second wife, because I know there's a hierarchy thing, isn't it?
Yeah.
With the first wife and second wife.
Yeah.
But you said you immediately took the responsibility of the entire family.
Well, the other factor, my first mother did not go through the process of marriage.
Okay.
Yeah. It is my mother who actually went through the process of marriage. So in a way, my mother becomes the first wife, because she's the one who came first and got married. My other mother did stay at home for a while, and then he passed on thereafter.
Do you know something interesting in your description? You say my other mother and my other mother. So they were both mothers
Yes.
in that regard.
Yeah.
And because the word mother in a proper context is someone who looks after the family and so forth. So you're saying that's they played a dual role of looking after the family.
Yeah.
Wow, that's an interesting thing, because you could say my father's first wife.
Yeah.
That could be a description,
Yeah.
but you're saying my mother's.
Yeah.
That's an interesting observation. And other kids within the family, don't they get politicized? As the older brothers.
Yeah, well, an activist. We did had an activist in the family by the name of Zanomusa. Unfortunately, he died 10 years ago, but he was an activist, a real activist. I'm just at a leadership level, but he was an activist. We still do have daughters who are activists, and my other three brothers. The other one is an official at IEC. It's not much involved in.
Should be impartial.
Yeah, so he's just not involved in politics because even us, we respect the fact that he happened to be part of IEC and grew within structures of IEC. And there's no one worrying him that, but why are you not wearing the T-shirt? No, because we know he's an IEC person. And there's no one who is worrying him, even other political parties, because they have known him for a long time. That he's not active in politics, but is an IEC personnel in terms of during times of election. He is one of the people who manages election. But anyway, at home, we are all IFP members.
Of course. It's like, I always use soccer references. It's like Kaiser Chiefs family.
Yeah.
You can't shake it, you know. Something that stands out for me about your life story has a lot to do with how you stay the long haul and you're not influenced. Because we know in South Africa, and I don't know if it exists in other politics around the world, of floor crossing and things like that. Never crossed your mind?
No.
Never?
No.
That maybe I've overstayed my welcome?
No. I must say, if you got it right from the beginning, it just stays.
Yeah.
It's like when you become a member of a church, if you got it right from the beginning, different churches can come and persuade you, and you won't go if you got it right from the beginning in the church where you belong. You can fellowship with them, but you know that, no, I belong to a particular church because I got it right from the beginning. So I got it right from Prince Mangosuthu Buthelezi. In terms of beliefs, when I look across other political parties, there is no other home I can feel I will be compatible in terms of political ideas than where I am.
Do you know, what are the true philosophies and philosophy of the IFP that is home to you? It speaks directly to your soul.
You see, let me start with the principle of humanism. It is not something that you are taught and learn it. In the IFP, we have people who live the life of being true human, of caring for other people, of knowing that I am who I am because of other people. And that is particular to IFP. And when it comes to respect, the IFP surpasses almost all other parties when it comes to respect, because we inherited respect from Prince Mangosuthu Buthelezi, that you must respect someone older than you and someone younger than you. Someone who is not your class, you might be highly educated, well respected, but respect just an ordinary person who is not educated at all, because there is sound knowledge to people. You shouldn't classify them necessarily with schooling as a determination of how a person knows.
Or money,
Yeah.
which is a factor.
Yeah. Now, the deep human respect is the character of the IFP, and I believe in a deep human respect. The IFP, because the other thing, they like political ideas, the economic policies is something that can change over time, because a policy can be good, but 20 years down the line, it can no longer be applicable. So that one is bound to time, because it's not always, it will be for years and years to come. But the sense of being a true human being and live it, a deep respect of humanity is what make IFP differs from all other political parties. Then the rest follows.
Yes.
But it builds upon this foundation. And what the IFP emphasized was that we must rely on your hands. The principle of self-help and self-reliance. That don't rely to other people. Other people can only help you, but rely on yourself. That you can do things on your own. You can make things happen. You can only ask other people to assist you. Do what you want to do. Yeah. So now the principle of self-help and self-reliance is something I believe in.
Yeah.
Because even in the family, I demonstrate that if you want something, firstly show us that you want to do it, and then we will support you. We shouldn't force you to do what you don't demonstrate that you will do.
Contemporary politics are very different. The now politics, big budget politics, politics of big English words, politics of class and the leaders, and politics of people with names like chief and all of that. Those are the politics that we exist in. Try to apply those very basic philosophies of the IFP to an ordinary South African who lives today, who is going through their own struggles, whether it's financial, they struggle to take kids to school, they are unemployed, and all of that. Bring those philosophies to the tangible life of Ujabu, who has to look after himself and his family.
Let me start with the principle of self-help and self-reliance.
Yeah.
Before you want don't become a reliability to other people. Whether you are educated or not educated, you can make your life a success. But it begins with you. If you believe in yourself, we can only make you to become who you want to be. I think that is central to life, because we may not all have an opportunity to go to school and we can't do anything if it did not happen, but we can still do something with what we have. You don't need to be educated in order to be somebody. You can start something out of your hands, your craft work. It can take you into a good life. You can use your hands in farming, in agriculture. You can apply your mind in starting a business, because, yes, principles, it is better if you went to school to follow principles. But if God has gave you mind and you take your time to use your mind to the fullest of its capacity, you can do amazing things, because I have realized that not only everything needs that you must have gone to school. Education only enables and accelerates you, but your brain is the key. If you apply it correctly, you can make wonders, because life is a good education and a school of training. The mistakes that you commit in life and then you learn out of them, you get educated, not necessarily having gone to school. So now, the basic principles of the IFP applies to everyone in whatever situation in which you are, and respecting another human being. And even God helps people who are humble, who respect other people, who know that there are other people, not everything is about me. And he makes other people to come on board in helping you, because you acknowledge and respect their existence. And where you run short, they will come on board and make you proceed.
Today's elections that are coming up, an interesting time. And I want us to break down your manifesto. But give me a minute first, because I think your life story is interesting, and the history of the IFP is interesting as well. There's a time, and I remember I was telling someone, a colleague of mine, that I'll be talking to the leader of the IFP today, and I'm quite nervous about it. That he asked about the 90s, the early 90s, a time that is attached to so much happening in the country, a build up to the 1994 elections that's coming, and so forth and so forth. How do you describe the early 90s of South Africa from the perspective of the IFP? And I will keep talking about it as we go.
The early 90s,
pre-94.
Yeah, pre-94
yes.
was a difficult period in the history of Black people in South Africa.
Yeah.
Because when other political parties were banned and other leaders were in prison, after the Rivonia trial, there was only one voice in South Africa, Prince Mangosuthu Buthelezi. He founded the IFP and gave it a name that would not raise eyebrows, called it National Cultural Liberation Movement.
Okay.
It became like something that deals with culture. And then, but if you then know, politics is part of culture.
True.
Now, he became the only voice that started to say, release Mandela, allow political organization in exile to come back home. All the people who were in prison, it is only him who made people know them. Because he had an opportunity that he worked with Prixliga Isagaseme, the founder of the ANC, worked with John Langalbalele Dube, worked with Nkosi Luthuli, and all other leaders of the ANC thereafter up until he died. Now, the problem occurred when there was a meeting in London in 1979.
Okay.
Where, because the formation of the IFP was a blessing, was an endorsement by Oliver Tambo and the ANC leaders in exile.
Okay.
Because Prince Buthelezi was a member of the ANC Youth League. Now, when Prince Buthelezi went to Zambia, Dr. Kenneth Kaunda, he said, you need to form a grassroots membership-based organization. And then he said, but how? Because I'm an ANC member. And then the discussion went on to Oliver Tambo, and Oliver Tambo endorsed that, okay, you go ahead forming that political party. But the split occurred in 1979 when the ANC in exile wanted him to use violence to fight against the apartheid government.
Okay.
And Prince Buthelezi said it will be difficult because as you are operating from abroad, you can't come back home and use violence against the apartheid regime. It is heavily armed and it is more powerful than any state in Africa. So within the borders, you can't do it. And then that was the way the two parties part ways after 1979 meeting that was in London.
They could never reconcile.
It can still reconcile.
Yeah.
I will end with that one.
Okay.
Yeah. And then the UDF was formed. And then there was propaganda then starting to accuse Prince Mangosuthu Buthelezi, calling him a sellout, not acknowledging that he was mandated by the ANC to form the IFP. This propaganda, unfortunately, eventually went to a state where violence broke out between the two political parties in KwaZulu-Natal, in Gauteng, and people died. That is, therefore, I'm saying that was an unfortunate period in the history of Black people in South Africa. But there is a truth that we must face, both ANC and IFP. We are equally accountable and responsible for violence. I know when you come to Gauteng, it sometimes appears as if it is only the IFP that was involved in violence. The report, people who died out of violence is 20,000. Out of 20,000, 12,000 are IFP members and 8,000, some ANC, some PAC, some AZAPO. Now, if you would say the IFP was alone responsible for violence, who killed 12,000 IFP members? It takes two to tango.
They didn't kill themselves.
No, they could not have killed themselves. They were killed by ANC. Now, the responsibility is upon the IFP and the ANC. Prince Mangosuthu Buthelezi was knocking at the door of Mr. Cyril Ramaphosa until he died, wanting reconciliation between IFP and ANC. And on Monday, after the burial of Prince Mangosuthu Buthelezi on Saturday, I wrote a letter to Cyril Ramaphosa. I thanked him for granting Category 1 funeral to Prince Mangosuthu Buthelezi. And I also thanked that all wings of the government, the Speaker, the Chief Justice, and the President came to honor Prince Buthelezi. And then I said, an outstanding matter is the question of reconciliation. There are people who believe ANC is guilty for having killed their parents. Some have scars, and some remain disabled. And they put the blame on the door of the ANC. And there are people who are doing so on IFP. And I said, we have a responsibility to close this chapter. We need to jointly go and apologize to people who were killed by IFP members when it was fighting with ANC, and the ANC to go to apologize to IFP family members whose parents died fighting when there was a fight between ANC and IFP. I'm still waiting for the acknowledgement of the letter, as well as beginning the process of reconciliation.
A response of sorts.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because we need to close that chapter.
Yeah.
I was in the interview in one newspaper, and the person who was interviewing me is from the area that was highly affected by violence. And then when we came to this subject, she said, oh yeah, you know what? I never heard what you are telling me. For all the years, I hate your political party. But she said, you know what? As from today, I am changing because the anger I have needs someone to come and apologize. Now I know you are willing to do so, and it is the party I belong to, which is not coming forth. And she said, you know, I never thought about, in terms of numbers, the IFP lost more people than what I thought. Now, knowing that it's 12,000, it will have been impossible that they kill themselves. Clearly, it took two to tango.
Yeah.
And the leadership has a responsibility to close this chapter so that the generations to come do not grow in a society that is not reconciled. You know, I was reading the newspaper this morning, people saying when they see the IFP posters in their area, it is a violation of history.
Wow.
You know, I sympathized with them because if you go in other locations where IFP people were burnt alive, IFP families will feel the same. The responsibility is between the two political organizations to close this chapter.
Do you feel, and you really just ended on that note, that you carry a negative branding, a negative reference in some parts of the country? Do you feel that as a leader of the IFP?
Now, both organizations carry the same branding. When there is war, it's just there was war. There are people, there are casualties. When there was violence that took life, the violence that happened in our country was an unfortunate scenario. And anyone what makes me not feel guilty is because it is not only the IFP that was involved in violence. There was violence between the ANC and PAC. There was violence between the ANC and AZAPO. There was violence between ANC and IFP. Now, you can read between the lines that there was some kind of survival. If you look at the common denominator. But that is not a big issue. What is an issue is that people died. And we have a responsibility, both of us, to go to these families and close the painful chapter and allow the opportunity for a new chapter. It is common. When people fight and people die, there will be a process where they will say it's a cleansing process. You do not become enemies once you have passed through that stage. The worst thing was propaganda. Someone said, but the figures you are telling me, I'm just hearing them for the first time. I said, I will give you a document that gives these figures because I'm not just thumb-sucking them. I'm telling you the information that is recorded. But because of the propaganda, people were told that the IFP killed people. They were not told that the ANC also killed people. Both political parties have a responsibility to close this chapter.
And you are conscious of the fact that you need a cleansing ceremony, so to speak, as the political formations. You are propelling for this to happen. You're saying at some point it should happen.
It has to happen.
Yeah.
Because you know what? 20 years down the line, all people will have gone who know history.
Who know that time.
Yeah. Now, kids will be fighting on this with no information. And some will be even denying what is written and recorded. But if you still have people who are alive, you know, at Boebatong, the trigger of what happened, a woman who was in a relationship with an IFP member, she was from the location to the hostel.
Okay.
And she fell pregnant. And one day when she was moving from the location to the hostel, they caught her, the ANC members, and they cutted her womb alive.
Wow.
And they said, we want to see the gacha inside you.
What?
I'm telling you, that is what triggered what happened.
For everyone's understanding, when they say they want to see the gacha inside of you,
they were referring to a child inside the womb because the child was from a member who is an IFP.
Yes.
And then whoever was an IFP was called a gacha, meaning the pet name for Prince Mangosuthu Buthelezi, which they used to insult him. Now, you can imagine if your child, because the child died.
Of course.
And it was done by ANC members. Definitely, even in families, if such can happen, there will be retaliation. And the retaliation will have huge casualties other than the child. But if you say, what was the casus belli of what happened in Boebatong, that was the casus belli.
Amazing.
Yeah.
And it's a part of our history that killed so many people, died, and that we will never forget.
Yeah.
Incredible.
But you can close it because no matter how painful it is, if you talk about it and agree that let us close this one, you close it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that moment hasn't happened.
I'm still hoping it is going to happen.
Yeah.
Because the leadership of the ANC is aware that I took the initiative after Prince Buthelezi, and they are aware that Prince Buthelezi had always wanted this to happen, and they know that if you go deeper into violence, you cannot blame one political party. The blame should be taken by all political parties who were engaged in the process of fighting against each other. At one stage, one was attacking and the other one was defending. At another stage, the other one was defending and the other one attacking. So there is no way to blame one side because at the end of the day, both sides lost human souls.
What was at the heart of the fight? What was fueling it? I remember at the time there were words like third force and there were words like black on black violence. What was fueling it?
You know, we may differ that to go to Limpopo, we must use the road
N1.
N1.
Yes.
And somebody said, no, let us use N2 to reach them. And you might fight even on over that because the crux of the matter, there was a feeling that the IFP, if it refuses to use violence, it is becoming soft to the apartheid regime.
This is a historic reference when you're saying in the 80s, when they were refusing to use violence to fight. Okay.
But on the side of the IFP was that in terms of the strength of the apartheid government, there is no way to wage a military struggle from within the borders. You need to be from outside South Africa in order to wage an armed struggle. And the IFP believed in a peaceful process in fighting apartheid by blocking it from within, frustrating it from within, and allow no opportunity to arrest you or cause you to run away from the country.
Or even burn you as a party.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Frustrate them from within using, like Mahatma Gandhi, believe in passive resistance.
Civil disobedience.
Yeah, which was not a violent strategy, but it was an effective strategy. And the IFP believed so. And the IFP believed that the settlement of our country will be through negotiations, which eventually is what happened at Kodesa. So now, not seeing eye to eye on a strategy eventually made the two political parties sorts of enemies. One feeling that you are delaying the process. If we can use violence, it can be quicker. But the other one says, yeah, you can try to use violence, but you will not reach anywhere because you can't face the might of the apartheid regime in terms of weapons, rather use a different strategy to frustrate them. For instance, Prince Buthelezi refused to take independence of KwaZulu. Now, it was a frustration because the homeland system wanted to divide black people, but Prince Buthelezi did not agree to that strategy. Other homeland leaders took independence and they were given more money in terms of budget, but Prince Buthelezi said, I'm not going to make KwaZulu not part of South Africa. And it became a frustration to the government. They couldn't arrest him for refusing to take independence because he said, there is no point we can make KwaZulu not part of South Africa. So now he was blocking the system from within. Unfortunately, the difference of strategies was taken as something wrong, and the war started between the two political parties. Well, the issue that it will be saying there was a third force, you know, a third force can come from any side, even from the side that is claiming that there is a third force, might be the one that is responsible. Because if you want to blame someone, you must do something that will make him appear bad.
Of course.
And at times you see, David, if I'm using a rifle, chasing you with a rifle, you know the rifle kills. And if you run away and you get someone who say, oh, no, here is a rifle, just go and face him,
yes.
you know, then you will say he was assisted by another, but you were chasing him with a rifle. What did you expect him to do? Because it's a survival,
True.
Which was at stake here.
Yeah.
So now it was unfortunate because, you know, the first victim of the necklace, burning a person with a tie until he dies, was an IFP member.
Yo. In what area? Do you remember?
In Durban, in Lamontville, in the township of Lamontville.
Yeah.
Now, if you burn people alive and then you say they must fold arms
and do nothing,
it's impossible.
Wow. What a time. We have such a violent history as a country. Do you think we carry some of that to today?
Not that much.
Yeah.
It can be just few elements who can still have such anger because some people lost their parents. They can see graves in front of their homes or within their homestead. And some people have scratches. And some people remain disabled to today. So now those people can still carry it to now. That is where a responsibility matters much, that we need to go through the healing process. But on a broader scale, we are a forgiving nation, especially the black people. And what had made things also good, you know, relations have developed. IFP members have been married to ANC families, vice versa. Kunabashana who know the IFP member as the uncle, and vice versa. That tie us together. We go to one denomination, which something became stronger after violence. That has helped, but there are families who are still stuck in the past, which we must take them along to this new era, so that kids who are growing, because kids, they will say, but we don't know what you are talking about, because it's no longer there.
Now, they have no reference.
Yeah, they have no reference. Yeah. For them, it's going to be easier, but a seed of hatred can be planted by a parent. As I'm referring to the people who were talking about posters, I said, well, I don't blame them. I blame the ANC, which is dragging feet in resolving this matter.
The IFP has always been regarded, and correct my reference, because maybe I'm wrong, my perspective is wrong, as a Zulu political party. One, do you agree with my reference? And if not, and why is it that the IFP carries that branding as not necessarily being a political party of all South Africans?
That was as a result of propaganda, which at the center is what caused violence. A propaganda was used to want to limit the IFP in KwaZulu. Let us be realistic. During the early 70s, when political activism was by law not allowed in South Africa, the IFP could only operate in KwaZulu. But Prince Buthelezi refused. When they say to him, take independence, he said no. KwaZulu belongs to South Africa. He could not operate in Bophuthatswana, in Ciskei, in Venda,
yes,
because those other areas had taken independence. That is why the violence that became strong in Gauteng, the intention was to chase IFP away of another province, which was not KwaZulu. Now, that is part of propaganda. And from inception, the IFP had members who were Soto-speaking people. We still have Ntwe Mafule, a Soto-speaking person who joined the IFP in 1978. Those are the people whom we became youth members with. He's still alive in the IFP. He was from Gauteng and a Soto-speaking people. There are so many who were IFP members and Soto-speaking people. And let's come today, fast forward. The IFP have members in Limpopo. The manager that mans the IFP office, the General Secretary for Administration, is Mr. Mfanje Mbango, a vendor from Limpopo, a neighbor of Mr. Cyril Ramaphosa. It's another living practical example that the man at the helm of the administration of the party is a vendor speaking person, and his homestead is in Limpopo. The IFP, we have members in Free State. 2 weeks ago, I was in Free State to launch the IFP manifesto. Tomorrow, I'm in Mpumalanga to launch the IFP manifesto. 3 weeks ago, I was in Germiston in Gauteng to launch the IFP. On the 18th of May, I will be in Limpopo for the provincial launch, and on the 11th of May, I will be in Northwest. So the IFP is not a Zulu-speaking party, is a party of the people of South Africa. It is the IFP at CODESA that said South Africa must be divided into 3 spheres of government. We must have provinces, and these provinces should be across South Africa. If we were a party only concerned in one area, we would have only wanted to speak for KwaZulu. But we said, in order to have an efficient government, have 3 spheres, so that you will devolve power from the national government to provincial government to local government structures. So now, you can't advocate something that you don't believe in if you are only geographic in terms of your thinking. You can't be worried about the country, how the country should be structured, if you are not a nationalist in your approach. The IFP, therefore, is a home for all people of South Africa. We will overcome the propaganda which was used during the unfortunate time with the intention to drive the IFP away from other parts of South Africa.
Something that stands out about the history of the IFP, a pinnacle moment that some people will remember and others won't. And I imagine you'll remember it very well. How in the ballot paper of the 1994 elections, the IFP was a sticker at the bottom of the ballot paper. Thank God there was space. Because imagine if there was no space at all. It would have been a sticker at the back. If they had printed all the way to the bottom. Tell us the story of that moment. What was the reason for that? I may know it from having read it, but it'll be interesting to hear it from you.
Let me start by saying the IFP, when the apartheid regime realized that one, Prince Buthelezi has refused to take the independence because it made it easy for ANC to operate in KwaZulu-Natal, because KwaZulu-Natal was part of South Africa. It became difficult for ANC to operate in the independent homelands.
Of course.
Yeah.
You remember the killings of all sorts of in the Northwest. Yes.
Yeah. Now, the apartheid regime realized that Prince Buthelezi has frustrated the grand plan of apartheid to divide them so that you can rule them. Now, they went to an extent of wanting to invite him to be part of the negotiations to form a new government. Prince Buthelezi made a condition that, one, you release Mandela and all other political prisoners, you unban all political parties in exile. Then I will come to the negotiating table. It was a frustration.
This is obviously, it's pre all of that, pre-90.
Yeah.
1990. Yeah.
Then it became a frustration that this man, we wanted to use him in order to calm the wave of the black people, and he is refusing. Yet it is him who is allowing KwaZulu to be a battlefield against apartheid. Now, when the apartheid government realized that, no, it all doesn't work, I'm sure it is recorded, not that I'm sure. I wanted to say I'm sure people know, but I know sometimes people do not know.
Or we choose to forget.
But it is recorded that when Mandela was released, he wanted to go and thank Prince Mangosuthu Buthelezi for the role he played for him to be released. Because Matiba was an honest man. And secondly, when de Klerk announced the release of Mr. Mandela, he called Prince Buthelezi by name as someone who assisted him to make a decision to release Mandela and unban other political prisoners. Now, when that process went through, Matiba was released, political prisoners and political exiles allowed to come back home. Then it was agreed that let's go to negotiations. how the country will be structured. And the negotiation then started, and there was a deadlock in the negotiations.
Okay.
Prince Buthelezi wanted a clear definition in terms of the role of the traditional institution, because it is a factor, not KwaZulu only, but throughout South Africa.
Yeah.
Because there are many kings and there are many traditional leaders throughout the country. And unfortunately, the ANC was not eager to entertain such. Obviously, the apartheid government have no deep interest on the traditional institution. The IFP said then, if this is not being taken into account, he said, we have contributed in terms of the federal nature of the country and the Bill of Rights. In our constitution, it is the IFP that made such to come into existence. But the IFP said, if you don't want to consider this aspect of the traditional institution, we do not want to be judged harshly by history that we were part of destroying the traditional institution. We are not going to participate in the election if it exclude the role of the traditional institution.
Are you saying we were on the verge of completely excluding? At some point,
yes.
we were right
but
here.
We're still there. We're still there because...
well, they're recognized now.
Yeah,
but
recognized as spectators.
Okay.
Because they are part of the municipalities, but they can't vote.
Oh, yes.
They don't form a quorum.
They are not
so now they are
part
of
legislature.
Yeah, they are,
yes.
they are good as not there, except just to recognize them, which is bad. Up until Professor Okum intervened. And then, because when things realized that it was not working, the Prince Buthelezi then said, I'm not going to participate in the elections. And everything then collapsed. Professor Okum, by God's grace, because when the flight had left, there was a technical error. The flight had to go back to land again.
What flight is that?
No, there was a flight that was taking away Professor Okum.
Okay.
Who was trying to intervene. And a technical error happened and the flight had to come back. And I don't know, it was taking Prince Mangosuthu Buthelezi away.
Yes.
And then it had to come back to land before going away from the airport.
Okay.
And it was the opportunity for Prince Buthelezi to meet Professor Okum, who proposed an intervention.
In that case, Professor, what was the role of the professor?
Professor, he offered to be a mediator between Madiba, Prince Buthelezi, and de Klerk. That can we not strike an agreement because he foresaw something worse to happen because the Zulu nation was a key factor in KwaZulu-Natal. If you exclude IFP and the traditional institution, you might go for a dangerous scenario. And Prince Buthelezi agreed to the intervention by Professor Okum, and Professor Okum intervened between IFP leader Madiba and de Klerk. And an agreement was made that the issue of traditional institution will be accorded due respect, powers and functions, due to time frame. It cannot be done prior to the date of elections. It will be seen after elections.
Okay.
And then Prince Buthelezi agreed to participate in the election. By that time, the ballot paper had been printed. That is why, therefore, the IFP had to use a sticker to be part of the election process. And then elections went smoothly. And we thank
some violence, but fairly violent free. Yes.
Unfortunately, the agreement had never been honored up to today.
We are facing 2024 elections. Some call this an interesting election. Some describe it as an election where the majority party, the ruling party as it's called, will lose some power. What is your prediction? Where a political analyst heads for 1 second?
Indeed, 2024 elections is a turning point in the history of our country. And it should be a watershed moment because we were celebrating freedom 30 years on Saturday. Indeed, we had something to celebrate. We got freedom. We all have equal right to vote. And this right is protected in terms of our constitution and by all structures in place. But we are stuck with the hard reality after 30 years of freedom.
Okay.
Unemployment is high. Crime is bad. Corruption has costed us billions of dollars that could have made our lives better. Load shedding destroyed our economy. Things are not as good as we had hoped to be. Now, there's a general feeling wherever you go because crime has affected every person irrespective of which political party you belong to.
It's true.
Crime is just crime, knows no color of the shirt. Unemployment, we are sitting with graduates, activists of the ruling party, they are sitting at home. Activists of the ruling party had to close down their shops because of the load shedding. Corruption, everybody knows where things went wrong. Now, there is a general feeling in South Africa that no, things must change. And this is not just happening overnight. If you look at 2019, the ruling party support declined to about 10 million votes. In 2021, further declined just about 5 million votes. And they lost metros. The comeback is being done through reconciliation.
What is coalition?
Yeah, but yes. Which is not stable because
we have seen its instability.
Is one to be in power for the sake of being in power, not because you deserve and you have to be in power.
Yeah.
Now, the writing is on the wall that the ruling party is not going to get 50% plus one.
Okay.
Because, yes, I can see they are campaigning aggressively in Western Cape, but I don't see something convincing that can make people of Western Cape to give a majority vote to the ANC. In KwaZulu-Natal, things are not going well for them. They lost the majority of municipalities in 2021. And from 2021 to date, the score is 15-1.
Whoa.
The IFP has taken 15 wards from ANC over a period of 2 years.
In the past 2 years, with by-elections?
During by-elections.
Yeah.
And the ANC has only managed to take 1 ward from IFP. That is why the score is 15-1. That is the writing on the wall. That people, whenever they get an opportunity, who had given that ward to ANC, they give it to the IFP. It's not about 1 or 2 or 3 wards, it's 15 wards. So it's not that people do not know what they are doing. It shows they are very clear that they are fixing their province. Now, if you look in Gauteng, the ANC is at 51%. If you look the advent of Umkhonto weSizwe, Patriotic Alliance, Action SA, they will definitely get seats at a provincial level in Gauteng.
Those smaller parties?
Yeah, no, they will definitely get seats.
Yeah.
They demonstrated during the local government elections in 2021. So the support they got, it's going to give them seats.
And are you saying MK will even bite more from that?
It is actually 10 taking from the ANC.
Yeah.
Oh, well, it could be very few people from other parties, but at most, because MK was clear that it is ANC that wants to fix the ANC.
Yeah.
So all people who are angry against the current leadership under Cyril Ramaphosa, they are following Zuma. You won't find IFP people who will say, we will vote MK being IFP. No. You will find a person who will want to change a political home, one or two, who will then say, no, now I'm joining the MK. But everyone is aware that MK is ANC. So now the ANC is going to lose drastically in KwaZulu-Natal, in Free State, in Gauteng.
Two MK, largely.
Yeah, largely. Let alone those who have already migrated, because the by-election results was a demonstration of migration, that people are migrating, because there is a general population that does not belong to any political party. They only vote for someone they believe can do what he or she is promising.
In the moment.
Yeah, in the moment. Yeah. They listen to your manifesto, and sometimes others have the faithfulness that my father was a freedom fighter, so I have allegiance to this political party. But now, people no longer have allegiance. If the political party does not help them, allegiance is not going to help them. They want a political party that will deliver the services. If you compel people to load shedding, there could be no allegiance. They should keep on giving to you when you fail to keep the lights on. If people know that you are stealing their money and their children are unemployed, there will be no allegiance. They will give to you because you are self-centered. You are not taking care of their rights, of their lives. You are abusing the resources and the powers you have at their expense. So now, from where I stand, the ANC is not going to get more than 50%. And it's going to be worse with the existence of the MK. And surely, therefore, South Africa is going to be under a coalition government. And even from a mathematics point of view, if the ANC cannot win Western Cape, they lose KwaZulu-Natal, they lose Gauteng, then automatically they are out in terms of the provinces with big population. Because if you go to Limpopo, the EFF is going to cut more. In Mpumalanga, MK will cut more. In Free State, MK will cut more. Really, they are in a big, big problem. But to me, there will be nothing that will be surprising me. Because, some people can see when something is coming. Kgalema Motlanthe said for ANC to renew itself, it needs to be taken out from power.
Okay.
It's Kgalema Motlanthe.
And it's an old statement.
Yeah, it's an old statement. Yeah. Some people have an ability to see what is coming and tell you. And if you look at the decline of the support, you can see that the ANC is actually going there. Mavuso Msimang, he said it is in the DNA of the ANC to be corrupt. A veteran of the organization, if it says so, any person who can vote that political party really should scratch his head and see, but am I okay? Especially general audience. Cyril Ramaphosa, he wrote a public letter, an open letter, and said, accused number one when it comes to corruption is ANC. Now, what more do you want?
An interesting election that's coming. Why do you think Babu Msholozi formed the MK?
I would not want to express my comment. Because I wouldn't want to get into that space.
But you have an opinion.
Yes, I do have an opinion.
Yeah.
But the problem is I am a politician and a leader of an organization.
Of course.
If I were an analyst or an academic, I would express my view, but I don't want my view to be seen as overshadowed by my political view. I would want to respect the initiative by Msholozi to go the line of the MK.
And naturally, and you've already said this, that MK is a disruption in this election, a major disruption.
Let us call it an upsetter or a disruptor.
Yes.
Not in a bad sense,
yes,
but in a good sense, that it brings something we were not...
left field. No one was anticipating.
Yeah. So it is definitely shifting the ground. People who would have voted the IFP, who do not like how things are in the ANC, might go to MK.
So you're saying you may not lose voters, but you may not gain them either.
No, we will definitely gain voters. But I'm saying there are ANC people who are not happy with the current leadership of the ANC, who might have voted us or voted another political party in order to send a message to the current ANC leadership. Such people might decide to vote another part of the ANC, which is MK, because from all intents and purposes, I don't see MK forming a coalition with the ANC at any rate.
Really?
I don't think so.
Even if the ANC would get 45 and they needed just a 5?
No, I don't think so.
Yourselves as the IFP formation coalition with the ANC? Is that a possibility?
You know, the ANC have destroyed our country. They have destroyed our hopes and dreams. They've made our country a crime scene. If you want to fix South Africa, really, you shouldn't think of bringing along somebody who destroyed it as someone who can accompany you in fixing the country. So now our position is, as we are part of the multi-party charter, we are putting all efforts that let us remove the ANC from power. Just get them out of power for many reasons. Leaders of the ANC have spoken loudly against the ANC itself. Now, trying to save them will not be a good thing for our country. Our efforts, therefore, is that we mobilize the people of South Africa that this year is a year of change, is a year of removing a political party that has destroyed almost everything that it found good. You know, the SOEs were performing well. It's a shame. The infrastructure they inherited, infrastructure that was good, and they destroyed it. All they deserve is to be taken out from power and get an alternative government. And the multi-party charter is mobilizing the 27.6 million South Africans that, you know, you have protested enough. You have blocked the road, you have burned the tires. Take the protest to the ballot box and remove the party that has failed you. That is what we are doing. And when we get the opportunity to speak to people, either through media or in person, there is 14 million South Africans who are registered but dormant. They don't go to the voting station. If you meet some, they say, why should I vote? Because the government is not doing anything for me. I'm unemployed. I'm a victim of crime. The list is endless. Now, we send a message to the 14 million that if you don't go and vote, you have actually voted to maintain the status quo. that the same government you do not want will remain in power because you are not taking an action. And the call is, this is a year of action. Everybody must be an active participant. Go to the voting station, give red card to the political party that has destroyed your country, give the opportunity to the opposition that is working together to fix South Africa and press a new button in order to rebuild the economy and ensure that our country is saved from being a failed state.
Do you, because you know what you're saying sounds very clearly like an anti-ANC position. Do you consider your position as a political party as an anti-ANC formation currently?
No. You see, even when we formed the multi-party charter, I made a statement that I do not hate the ANC, but I hate what they have done to destroy our country. So now it is not anti, but the fact is they need to be removed from governance because the little that is remaining, if they can be allowed to stay in power, it is hard to contemplate what will be from 2024 to 2029 is now or never. And that is why I said these elections should be a turning point in the history of our country. People must not vote in terms of allegiance, in terms of heart, in terms of love. They must apply their brains. That this government has been told for 17 years to deal with load shedding. They decided to steal money instead of fixing the infrastructure. They start projects, power stations, years and years, throwing billions of rand, projects not getting finished, but money getting finished.
Spent,
So now, what else would you say you are hoping for in the next 5 years? You can't have 17 years dealing with one problem and then say you will fix it in the following 5 years. Why were you asleep the whole 15 years? No ways.
Give us highlights of the multi-party charter. Who are the members of this? Who are, I call them members, so for lack of simple explanation.
That's quite right. In the multi-party charter, we actually have 11 political parties. But as you rightly know, other political parties could not meet the threshold in terms of time in collecting signatures. And I'm sure you also saw even BOSA making its coalition with parties who are not going to participate in the election. There is nothing wrong because it have members who will give their support in any of the partners.
A voter is a voter.
Now there is the IFP, the Democratic Party, the
Democratic Alliance.
I'm sorry, Democratic Alliance. I'm sorry, and the Freedom Front Plus, the Action SA, the ACDP. These are 5 main political parties with representation in parliament and local government spheres,
provincial government.
And there is ISANCO. ISANCO is having councillors at local government sphere, so it has a proven record of having members.
What do you say to a voter that is happy to give you a vote as the IFP, but is not happy to give the DA a vote? And they're saying, I can't give you my vote. And then when we are at uyofaga kule multi-party thing of yours. What do you say to that voter?
No. It's very easy. If we are not going to be voted as a multi-party charter, the IFP is campaigning as an IFP with its clear manifesto with 13 points. If you vote the IFP, your vote is going to the IFP. But the fact of the matter is, if you want to remove the ANC from power, because it had 30 years and things do not look good, you need political parties with fresh ideas who must come together and form a new government. Now, in KwaZulu-Natal, in 13 municipalities, we are already in a coalition with the DA, Freedom Front Plus, Action SA, and
Action SA is...
ACTP.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Now, so the multi-party charter at a provincial and national is not something new.
Okay.
You go to Tshwane, these parties I mentioned are part of the multi-party, of the coalition government in Tshwane.
Yeah.
And
that has kept the ANC out.
Yeah, that has kept the ANC out.
Yeah.
What is clear in South Africa, people have come to the majority. Even ANC members, they admit that, our party has let us down because we are unemployed. Friends, connected members are the ones who are benefiting. If you are just an ANC member, not connected to anyone, you suffer like you are not a member of the ANC. You need a government that cares for all its citizens. Once the government is in place, it should meet the needs of the people. Now, anyone who would say, I gave you my vote and we have taken it to somebody else, but what is good, you made the intention clear from the beginning.
Yes.
Is unlike betraying.
After I voted for you.
After I voted you, I didn't want the ANC. You have taken my vote. We have brought back the ANC. So now it's a different case. The people of South Africa must realize that we are in to the politics of coalition. There is no going back now.
Are you saying, and never is a big word, you will never work with the ANC? Let me give a rephrase, at least for the next 10 years. The current ANC, let me put it that way.
You see, the position of the IFP is that the ANC destroyed our country. If you want to rebuild South Africa, it will be a hard thing to do to rebuild it with someone who destroyed it. Now, we need to remove the ANC. And it is something very easy to happen. I said to you, the ANC got 5 million votes in 2021. There is nothing good they did from 2021 to date which can make them to have their support growing. Oh, well, people who did not participate might go back and vote them, but you have 14 million South Africans who are sitting at home. They say, we're not going to participate because the government is not doing anything. They are referring to the ANC. If those people can stand up and become active participants, ANC will be removed and they will place a new government which they will give 5 years, hold it accountable. If it doesn't deliver, they go to the ballot box, they remove it, and look who else can be trusted on what is promising from 2029 to 2034. Now, the position in terms of will you ever work with the ANC at whatever stage? We feel we should not confuse voters. We should give a clear position to voters because they want to decide who to vote. A voter who is done with the ruling party wants to decide who to vote. That is why we are saying the IFP is mobilizing people to remove the ANC from power. And it can happen if people can stand up and become active participants.
Quickly, manifesto issues. Land. Your position is clear. Even in the past, you've stayed out of certain decisions that were made in Parliament, like the land distribution without compensation, for instance. Give us your position on land as you go into this position.
The position is as same as you have articulated it. The IFP, one, believes there are stretches of land currently under the government, and the government does not need to pay anyone for that land. The IFP immediately, if people can put us into power, we will do land audit to determine how many hectares is under the government control. Once we have done audit of the land, we will redistribute that land to people of South Africa who need to have land. Number two, we will move to the second stage of land. There is land owned by people who live abroad. They are not using it. It is their land. We will engage them that sell us this land at a reasonable price because you are not using it. And once we come to an agreement, we will redistribute that land also to our people. We do not believe in the expropriation without compensation because it is unwise to do something that has failed several times elsewhere. Our neighbor, Zimbabwe, they did it. It did not work. And they're back to square one. And you cannot have a person, even yourself, David, you can't invest in a country where your investment is not guaranteed in terms of protection. Because if the government can expropriate without compensation at any time,
yes,
you can't go and invest something you work hard for and you know there is no guarantee. You rather go to countries where there will be a guarantee for your investment because you're working for yourself and for your children, for your family, for your dynasty. So you can't just act recklessly while there are countries that give protection to the investment made by the investor. So now the IFP believes, don't do what has failed elsewhere because you will go the same road which was gone by the other countries when they introduce expropriation without compensation. We believe, therefore, that there is land under the people who are using it, either for farming, agriculture. The IFP says, firstly, go to schools, reintroduce agriculture in schools so that you reintroduce our children in agriculture and farming, reopen colleges of agriculture. And if you want to buy a farm and give it to black people, you must equip them first. Because if you just simply give them a farm, 2 years down the line, it will stop functioning. The first money they will get, they will go and buy big cars, big homes.
You know us. You know us very well.
Yeah. Now, if you invested correctly, take them to colleges of agriculture. When they finish, put them under mentorship program, under a farmer. They must earn a salary on a monthly basis so that they know, even if you own the farm, treat yourself as a worker and know how to use the farm to produce food. And once you are satisfied that they have been mentored sufficiently to use land accordingly, then you get into a process of buying land. Because if you don't do so, you can expropriate land, give it to people, they will sell it back. And back to square one. Yeah. So now you're not going anywhere.
We've seen it with RDP houses where they and get it and have a place to live, to a few years sell it. But what do you say to those, and PAC being one of them, that say, but the land was stolen from blacks at some point, and as a result, that has to be rectified?
Yeah, but don't fight the battles you won't win, and that will not assist you. We need to fix the country now, because you see, that battle, people will take you to court, and courts are independent. They will say, prove that a person stole the land. You can't say they must prove where they bought it. If you are the one who was a complainant,
you have to prove.
You must prove beyond doubt that your case is strong. So now, why do you waste your time on things that you can resolve them in an amicable way? especially on people who are using land to cultivate and produce food. Why are you so aggressive to them? Because they are using land for the benefit of the country. And look from the neighbors. You can go to Venezuela. The same problem occurred in terms of expropriation of land without compensation. Why do you go the road where others have failed? Why don't you go safe road for the benefit of a country? Because if you do it in a way that is not right, you see other people say land must belong to the state. That is socialism. Socialism is failing all over. So why do you go? Because the owners, the inventors of socialism is Russia. And it collapsed. Why do you take people to an idea which failed from its inventors? Well, it can sound
Soviet
good.
Union.
Yeah, Soviet Union. It can sound good, but not everything sounding good is good.
Immigration. You have a clear position on immigration. South Africans, and I will connect immigration with unemployment. You'll see how you answer it. South Africans are saying those that are coming into our country are taking our jobs. Whether true or not, it's another debate. And some of them are coming in the country legally. They're opening spaza shops. They're working at restaurants and so forth and so forth. What do you say to the immigration issue? And while answering that, let's address also the unemployment problem.
The IFP believes that our borders are too porous. There must be an effective control in our borders.
Are we seeing improvements?
Oh, well, but it's not going anywhere.
Okay.
Because it's a quick fix during election times. Have a clear process of ensuring that your borders are controlled. Ensure that people inside your country are documented, and people seeking political asylum must be given the permit to stay in our country. Those who are students must be granted a right to be in our country through documentation process. And those who are in South Africa seeking for job, which is not specialized jobs, like drivers of the Uber, working in the taxi industry, restaurant, construction industry, those people should be assisted to go back to their respective homes. But where you need specialization, like doctors, engineers in the mines, a variety of specialized skills, there's an international process. If you are hired on specialization, you enter into a contract in a particular country, and you are given people to whom you must transfer a special skill. It's an international norm. We go that road up until you say we have exhausted all South Africans who want a job. Then you start to invite people from other countries to come and provide job. And that is what is happening throughout the world. And the IFP, therefore, is clear. South Africa belongs to South Africans, and they must take first priority. Should it be, because you cannot discriminate a foreign national when he comes to clinic or hospital for medication. But you will find that the people of South Africa, by the time when they arrive into the hospital, a person waits for the whole day before he gets the service. And when he gets the service, only to find that there is no medication. Why? The government of South Africa is budgeting on the basis of people they know. Now, there are people who are foreign nationals who are not documented, but they benefit from the budget which did not cater them. Unless you handle this matter very well, you will end with a country which is unable to satisfy its citizen because it caters for people it doesn't know. You know, I'm aware that in the construction industry, the foreign nationals, some are excellent when it comes to there, because we paid little attention on vocational education as a country. Where it is something that is special and we don't have, record the person accordingly so that the country benefits from That skill we do not have as a country.
Connecting that to youth development, education, because we have the highest level of youth unemployment. What is the IFP's position on that?
The IFP believes that the inequalities in South Africa are growing each and every day between different races. Poverty is increasing on one hand on the majority of blacks, while others, limited number of blacks and other groups are getting richer and richer every day. Or let me just finish the question of the township economy. The tuck shops almost throughout the country are now in the hands of the foreign nationals. And this has taken the economy from the hands of the South African people. And in most cases, the foreign nationals do not pay the SARS tax, which is not good. You need to fix that as a country. Now, if you want to deal with the question of inequalities and unemployment, firstly, invest in education, quality education. The government of the day destroyed our education system. They introduced OBE. We warned them that this system is not going to help our country. Children were cutting papers throughout the day. They could not read and write, but progressing, and they become dropouts at the university. It's a human waste as a result of bad policy education. Introduce a quality education, focus on vocational education, train people to have skills that they are going to be able to start their own businesses and employ themselves and employ other people, so that you do not look at the government alone to be the source of employment. And what you need to do also in education, you currently are having a problem of unemployed graduates.
Many.
Well, this is a failure of our government, because posts are vacant in many government departments, but there is no money to fill up those posts because money was badly used through state capture. The IFP therefore proposes that in the meantime, provide a grant of 3,000 rand per graduate to enable a graduate to be able to go for interviews, go online, look for work, advertise post, apply online. Because if you do not enable him or her to do that, will be kept at home forever.
Can we afford it?
No, we can't afford, because one, cut down the bloated cabinet.
Okay.
You will save millions, if not billions.
Where do you cut?
No, cut down, because there are ministers we don't need.
Okay,
No, you see, like there is a Minister of Minerals and Energy, Minister of Electricity. When you look at it closely,
we know why they created Minister of Electricity. I'm just saying.
Yes, but it was running away from closing or demoting other people. Decided to create a post. How much does it cost? Millions. It's a duplication.
He's been here to the studio, and he was driving himself. I'm just saying, he didn't come with many people and protectors.
He is allocated people. He
probably chose to drive himself.
He chose to drive himself just to make an impression.
Okay.
But in terms of budget, there are people employed, and there is a fully fledged department. It's not just
one man.
Yeah, no. It's a fully fledged department. There are so many. We don't need all deputy ministers.
Some who say, actually, I was about to say, there's some who say we don't need deputy ministers.
I'm going there. Not all of them. Other departments are too big to be manned by one person, but other departments are too small. You don't need deputy ministers. You will save a lot of money. The presidency is bloated. There are so many people.
We've never had so many ministers in the presidency in the history of this country.
If you cut down that, you will have money to pay the
3,000.
Yeah, you will have it. And if you look at the state capture, how much money we lost, billions of dollars, not rands, of dollars. and that money was stolen by people who are identified. Who are they?
Aren't you creating an environment? And sorry, I would let you.
I've not finished the point. Can I finish?
No, go
point?
ahead. Go ahead.
If you give them a 3,000 rand grant, is for a period of 12 months.
That's why I wanted to hear the conclusion.
It's a period of 12 months. These people must be attached either to a national government, provincial government, local government for a period of 12 months. At that time, you are assisting them to be looking for a job. The government can also identify that here is a post relevant to you. You go because at a certain point, you will just place them, not go even through the process of application, because you want to solve a problem that accumulated under a government that was asleep on duty. Now, further, what you must do, other qualifications must be stopped at a university level.
Okay.
I want to make an example.
For example?
Social workers.
The country needs them.
No. But there is a redundance. There are social workers. In terms of social workers, they employ them according to when did you qualify.
Okay.
I spoke to my provincial government earlier but look, we know that we have a lot of social workers who are not yet employed because you consume them according to the year of their qualification.
Okay.
Why do you carry on producing them?
Okay.
Yet you know at most it is the government that is employing them. Why don't you say this profession, just put it on hold until we consume
those that are the available stock.
Finish the stock that is available.
Yeah.
Because if you don't do that, you will carry on producing people. All institutions that are registered with the government, they produce people because your data will tell you we have so many students with tourism qualifications. They are not employed. Why do you allow and fund studies in the field that you know it's redundant? Why don't you say institutions must provide people who are demanded by labor market? Because when they finish, they will get employed. So that's what the IFP says you must do. Once you feel that, no, we have consumed the stock.
Now
you know that, now, in 2 years' time, the stock will be finished. You start then introducing again the cause. You have doctors who are unemployed.
Lots.
But
thousands.
You carry on with the Cuba program. What are you doing? Because the Cuban program was to close the gap that we did not have sufficient medical doctors. Now you have them sitting at home. Why are you carrying on with the program to produce people who are not going to consume? What
You're
are you
saying
doing?
That the 3,000 is obuya khona lapha kule Cuba.
Well, but Cuba, not that much, because it's not that so many. But even if you produce 30 a year, why do you carry on producing people while you still have the
available
people
stock
available you can't use? It's fine. You can't terminate the program in the middle, but there should be no new intakes.
Last one, because of time pressure. Crime and corruption. We deal with ridiculous crime in this country, levels that are unimaginable. I remember I was talking on the radio about the levels, the number of guns that are in the streets, and how we are all fearful. We are all worried that you're just waiting to be a victim in South Africa. We're talking about over 75 people dying every day in South Africa from guns and hijacks and all of that. How will the IFP address the issue of violence, not only necessarily violence, but of crime and corruption? Bring that as one concept.
You see, if you want to deal with crime, you must be tough on crime and criminals. And you must introduce effective measures to squash crime and criminal elements in the community. Everybody is not safe. Whether you are a pedestrian, Whether you drive your car, you know you can be hijacked. Whether you have a house, immediately when you arrive home, you lock the door, you lock the burglars to ensure that basically you are safe. Now, the first thing that you must do, close your borders so that everybody within the country is accounted for. Fingerprints are known. Because if you have people who are, I'm not ascribing crime to foreign nationals, but the logic is, if you have people in your country whom you don't know who they are, you have no particulars of them, no fingerprints, any criminal activity done, you can't trace who did it. That is the beginning. Then secondly, provide police stations, one in all hot spots of crime, because the government knows the hot spots of crime and ensure there is a police station there. If funds do not allow, ensure there is a mobile station 24/7, employ men and women who will be manning the police station or the mobile police station, provide resources. In South Africa, you run to the police station, they say, look, there is the van, it has been staying there for 2 weeks with a puncher. We can't help you. Provide resources in terms of the working tools. Ensure that every police station is exempted from load shedding. Ensure at least that you put solar so that when load shedding occurs at any hour, people are able to get the assistance of the police. Ensure that recapacitate your police, that when they take statements, a person doesn't go out easily from the prosecution process. Because in most cases, people are arrested only to find that the statement was poorly written. It cannot stand in the court of law. So now reskill your police in terms of taking statements correctly, so that when they make a statement, it's a watertight statement. A person that has been arrested, if really guilty, must not escape the might of the law. Ensure that you retrain your investigating team so that, in the past, when a person has been killed, it will take 1 or 2 days, a person is arrested. Why? Police were better equipped in terms of how to investigate a case. Do so that people who are murderers, the rapists, participating in crime, are arrested within a short space of time, so that you send a message that commit a crime, we arrest you. But if somebody is killed, nobody gets arrested, this will carry on. And then once you have done that, ensure that your prosecuting authority is sharp on its work. When a person has been arrested, they must make it a point that that person will be jailed and given a harsh sentence. Provide specialized court to deal with special cases. Do not allow a case to run for 10 years.
Yeah.
You see,
we've seen that.
Yeah, we've seen that.
Yeah. Actually, there's one that has run for 20 years. Yes.
You will see witnesses disappearing. Then the case comes to an end. Yeah. So now, have dedicated courts to deal with specific cases, because you must target what you want to crack in the country in terms of crime. Within a short space of time, the case must come to an end. And if a person is found guilty, that person must be given a harsh sentence. The IFP is very clear. On cases of rape, cases of murder, a person must not be given bail until the case is finalized. If found guilty, a person must be given life sentence with no option for parole. So that people know that once you commit crime, murder, rape, you are gone ever and ever from the court. Because, unless you become drastic, you will live under this situation. You must be tough in order to send a message that there is no place for monsters in the society. In terms of corruption, you need a government that has courage and brave to introduce consequence management. Once a person has been implicated into a corrupt activity, you must be decisive. You know, the state capture report by Chief Justice Zondo indicates names of people who are alleged to be implicated. They cannot implicate you if you have nothing to do with.
Of course,
So now, but you see those people are back in the list, going back to be the government of the day after
list.
29
Yes,
May.
yes.
Now, the message is very clear. You can't be implicated into corruption, but you can still go back to government. There is no consequence management. Introduce consequence management. Ensure that people who are implicated, actions must be taken against them, and they must prove themselves that they are innocent on this. Because we're not saying once implicated, then you are guilty. No, but get the process doing so. People who are found guilty to have benefited, there should be confiscation of what they acquired unfairly. The assets forfeiture unit must be active. Because you see, people who are implicated through the Zondo Commission, they will start hiding all what was there from their relatives. They will take it away. By the time you start to deal with them, you won't recover.
They have nothing
anything.
anymore.
Yeah.
Yes.
And in dealing with the cases of corruption, have dedicated courts so that cases are attended to within a short space of time. If a person is found guilty to have benefited unfairly, you must give harsh sentence to send a message that corruption doesn't pay.
Yeah. Babu Hlabisa, I want you to speak to your voters as we conclude.
Yeah.
What do you say to them?
The IFP wants to say people of South Africa can trust the IFP because we will do things differently. We do not make empty promises. The promise we make is our commitment. The 13 points we made is our commitment to the people of South Africa. And from time to time, we will be giving a feedback, accountability on each point. How far have we gone? Where we have a challenge, we are not afraid to come and say we are experiencing a challenge on this one, but we are trying this option. The IFP is not afraid to take a brave action to introduce consequence management. Top priorities is create job opportunities, create the environment that will make the foreign investors, people from South Africa, to have a drive to invest in creating jobs. The government cabinet is too big. It must be cut in order to redirect money to other services to benefit the people of South Africa. You can't have an environment that will make economy grow if you do not deal with crime decisively and load shedding. The IFP believes that in order to deal with load shedding, you must ensure that have a plan that in a short space before the expiry of the 5-year term, load shedding must be done and dusted and never come back. Ensure that you keep the lights on for all the time for the people of South Africa. Invest in education so that you produce quality people. Ensure you concentrate on vocational education. We believe that to have a healthy nation, you must invest in health care, which is quality. Ensure that the infrastructure, hospitals and clinics, look like hospitals and clinics. Ensure that the equipment in our health sector is available so that you don't cause people to wait for too long for a particular treatment or medication to be available to assist them in terms of what they are suffering from. And the IFP will bring back integrity to government, will restore trust between the people and the government, because we will deliver on the commitments we made and take accountability where we have challenge.
Thank you very much. Yours is an interesting poster. It has two faces. And I say this because it's the only one. And I remember when I saw it for the first time, I was in KZN driving out of the airport. I said, I worry about Babu Hlabisa, that the legacy Yaga Prince Mangosuthu Buthelezi will continue to weigh heavy for a long time. What do you say to that as we conclude?
We dedicated 2024 elections to Prince Mangosuthu Buthelezi, for he served our country for 70 years. I was sharing with other people that he was a rare figure. He worked with Prixliga Isagaseme, the founder of the ANC. He worked with Dr. Langalbalele Dube. He worked with Nkosi Albert Lutuli, worked with Oliver Tambo, worked with Madiba, worked with Mbeki, worked with Zuma, worked with Kgalema Motlanthe, worked with Cyril Ramaphosa. It's a rare human being who ever existed. And we never thanked him as a country properly. Yes, during the time when he was buried, the whole country of South Africa gave him honor, the way he was respected. But it is bad to respect people when you bury them, but don't give them such respect when they're still alive. We therefore, as an IFP, said all we can do is to dedicate these elections to him, 2024. And once elections are over, the IFP will go forward as a party. The legacy has a foundation, Prince Mangosuthu Buthelezi Foundation, which is not political, that will deal with the legacy, the good work he did during his lifetime. But for now, it is just only for these elections. Post these elections, the IFP will go forward as a political party with the leadership, while the legacy is being promoted through the foundation.
What do you say to Action SA's move to want, a Tekwini municipality named in some way after the prince?
Oh, well...
It looks opportunistic from a distance.
Yeah, well, we saw the motion, and we have an obligation not to oppose it. The only thing is that in terms of numbers, we do not know how far it will go. But if people of South Africa really were honest and genuine, it would not have really needed even to go through a motion that will be voted. It will just need a proud discussion and agreed that no matter how we feel, but he is a rare person, as I've just indicated. He worked with ANC leaders, and he was the one who knew them better than any other person collectively, the leadership of the ANC. And for that reason, even the ANC should have been proud to say, no, we will champion this motion. So as IFP, it will be an honor if Prince Buthelezi can be honored to be called after the only metro for now in KwaZulu-Natal, which is one amongst many in South Africa, but also elsewhere in the country, if there could be a way in which he can be honored with an institution that will bear his name as a testimony of a person who made a great contribution under difficult conditions, we'll highly appreciate.
I appreciate it. You know, interesting, I've asked many times to have him in the studio, and we're happy you came. Unfortunately, we never got that opportunity because I always regarded him. I like history, and we appreciate history on this channel, and where things come from. And we thought he was an incredible historian in that regard. He held so much information. Unfortunately, we never got that chance. But we are lucky that we got you. Babu Hlabisa, thank you so much.
No, thank you very much, David,
I wish you well.
as well as to your listeners.
Yeah.
The one final clarion call, 2024 is a year of change. I'm not saying vote the IFP. Look at the manifesto of all political parties and ask a question, is it real what this political party is promising? But take an action. Make your mark. This is our country, our children's country, our generation's country. If we allow it to collapse now, we will have to take the blame. If you become a spectator, you must take a blame that I had the opportunity to act. I decided not to. That is why the country is where it is. Let us save South Africa. Let us rebuild our country. Go to the voting station and make a choice amongst political parties present. Don't spoil a paper. If you spoil the ballot, you are not helping. You are irresponsible and reckless. You better stay at home if you have not made up your mind. But there is no other time we should make up our minds and contribute constructively in building South Africa than 2024 elections.
Your prediction of your performance, that is the end.
The IFP...
Where are you now, numbers in Parliament?
We are 14 at a national level, 1 in Gauteng, 13 in KwaZulu-Natal.
Okay.
We are looking to IFP doing very well, holding the majority in KwaZulu-Natal, being a strong voice in Gauteng at a cabinet level, and a strong voice at a national level, at a cabinet level in deciding the direction of South Africa, in Limpopo, Mpumalanga, Free State, and Northwest. We want to have human bodies within the provincial legislatures.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Yeah.
That's Velenkosini. I love your name, by the way. I thought one day when I have a son.
Yeah, well, the name is too deep because my mother was not conceiving. Because Velenkosini, the one who comes from God.
Exactly.
Yeah. So my grandmother took my mother to the leader of the church, John Galile Shembe, the leader of the Nazareth Baptist Church, the second leader. And then they asked for children. And then
you came about.
The leader then said, you will get 10 kids.
What?
And then the first one was named Velenkosini because I came as a result of the request from God.
Amazing. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. Yeah. Wow. I enjoyed that thoroughly. Thank you so much.
No, thank you very much.
It's great. Well, I forgot to tell you. Do you know you have a look of R&B musicians? I don't know if you're aware of that.
Yeah, well, some say the Obama of South Africa.
There you go. Yeah. Thank you again.
No, thank you very much.
We appreciate it. There you go. It's the leader of the IFP, everybody.
King David Studio Podcast.